off the back of an amazing Cam York goal and the best Dan Vladar performance we've seen in the entire season from start to right now, the Philadelphia Flyers are headed to the second round to play the Carolina Hurricanes. Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers, okay, admittedly, the Flyers had a rough game. They struggled to get out of their zone at points. We're going to talk about what went right, what went wrong. We're going to talk about the goal at the end. We're going to talk about Vladar. We're going to talk about what made this game absolutely electric from start to finish. But first off, hallelujah, the Flyers made it past. Second of all, if you've been enjoying these videos so far, make sure that you subscribe. 90% of the people that watch these videos aren't subscribed. It helps you stay up to date with me, stay up to date with the Flyers, and overall helps the channel out a ton. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I've been dying to show this graphic off all night. Oh my god. The Flyers pot one right at the end of the first overtime, just as I was starting to get ready to go make food before a second one. The Flyers and Cam York pot the overtime winner to take Game 6 in Philadelphia against in front of a sold-out hometown crowd against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Ladies and gentlemen, this game was absolutely nuts. All right, start to finish, this game was one of the best hockey games that we got to see the Flyers play in all year, and we're gonna start at the beginning. All right, the Flyers come out the first period, and I said it earlier today, but the Flyers needed to be physical. They needed to establish themselves and establish their presence on the forecheck and in the neutral zone. The Flyers were doing that somewhat well in the opening and in the first period. Towards the beginning of the second period, they were used throwing the body around well. The new lines that they were testing out today, which were somewhat similar to this, although you switch around where Tippett and Martone are right now, and they played really well. These guys played together great. These lines worked out fairly well. Unfortunately, Garner Hathaway had to be the guy that had to sit out. He would have been an amazing physical presence to have, but uh, overall, these lines worked out well. They seemed to jumpstart Forrester a little bit. He had a couple of better offensive chances tonight, even though it looks like he might just need a miracle in order to get something going for him, because he was getting chances and wasn't having any real shot at succeeding on them, finishing on them. Overall, it was a decent game from him. He was fine defensively. The bigger one to talk about, Michkov getting back into the lineup, getting the assist on the game-winning goal in overtime. Absolutely amazing performance from him. Played a really, really good game. He was up there for the lead for the team in shots all night. And just as a whole, playing a phenomenal hockey game tonight. Wonderful performance from him. An excellent bounce-back game. I think that maybe not all of it, but at least part of what helped him get to the point that he was at tonight was the benching from Tocchett. And I'm not going to come out here and tell you that I think that Tocchett benching him and deciding to do what he did the last couple of days is the best decision that they could have possibly made. All right, the Flyers, Michkov alone probably could have figured it out himself, but I think that motivating him with that scratch, telling him basically, yo, sit on it for a little bit, you're not playing great, we need you to come back focused and locked in, was a decision that I think Tocchett going back, even with all the backlash afterwards, I think he would go back and he would make that decision a million times over. All right, this team played really well. The second period was rough. All right, the team played well. The second period was the end, the closest I've come to losing my mind at this team all season, and that's saying something because I had to watch them lose to the Red Wings earlier this year. But this team's been amazing. All right, they played really well. The defense, the lack of offense and ability to get out of their zone was made up for entirely by the fact that this defense is actually horrifying. The Penguins just could not solve the Rubik's Cube. It took long shifts and exhaustion to break down the Flyers defense. It took a whole extra period of overtime for the Penguins to look like they were finally getting open chances and generating the offense that they wanted to. And even then, I gotta hand it to the man. Dan Vladar is an absolute wall. He's an absolute menace to society and to any team that has to go up against him as a whole. This man played like he was trying to imitate God wearing goalie gear, and I don't say that lightly because, like, 42 saves on 42 shots. One of the highest shot counts that he's faced all season, and B, some of the most competitive shots and some of the biggest opportunities that he's faced all year. the IQ in overtime when the loose puck got away from him and got called dead after somebody was laying on it in the dog pile. The IQ to swing his arm back over and plant his arm firmly on the line, probably from him watching that goal between Ottawa and Anaheim the other night. But absolutely amazing performance from him. If you're gonna be anybody that was saying that Vladar looked shaken, looked like the rust was showing, looked like the inexperience was showing from him, you ate your words watching this game. That's how I'll put it. This game really solidified that Dan Vladar is a player that can have some rough games and bounce back. He's a guy that can play incredibly well when the lights are brightest and when he absolutely needs to. And JJ said it on the broadcast, to call Dan Vladar the backbone of this franchise this year, and especially in this game tonight, might be an understatement at this point, because he has been far and away the team's best player since probably the beginning of the year. It's not a stretch to say that he's been overall the Flyers' best player since the beginning of the year, and I think I don't think that he would agree with me on that. I think he's too humble for that, but I think that you ask anyone else in that Flyers locker room and they would agree with me on that statement. He was an absolute menace tonight. Next up, the overtime hero, Cameron York, an absolute phenomenal player. Sorry about that one. Get that off the screen for you. An absolute phenomenal player. Again, played phenomenally in the defensive end the entire zone, or the entire defensive end the entire time. Was good in the neutral zone where the Flyers were struggling the entire game, and was far and away, I actually think he's the team leader in shots for the night, far and away one of the scariest offensive presences that this team had all night. Because while guys like Forrester and Konecny and Ristolainen had some opportunities that they just couldn't capitalize on, Cam York was out there hammering shots at Shilovs the entire night. Okay? Hats off to Shilovs for a moment. He played a phenomenal game. Unfortunately, there was a brick wall down the other end, and Cam York wanted to go home and eat dinner. So, um, that game was an absolute monster to watch. My personal 3 stars of the game: number 1, Dan Vladar, throw the overtime goal out. Dan Vladar, 42 saves. You don't get to overtime without that. Number 2, Cam York, great in the defensive end, absolute workhorse tonight, overtime goal. Matvei Michkov for my 3rd star. Generally speaking, phenomenal player tonight. Had a bunch of really good shots. Was putting on the pressure on the offensive zone. Finally having somebody with some size on the other side of him opened up some opportunities for him to not be the guy having to dive down into the forecheck. I hope Tocchett takes this and looks at it and realizes that maybe having Barcia and Michkov on the same line isn't exactly the greatest idea, since there's so little size to go around there. When he was getting shots off, his shots were looking good. He had a bunch of really good opportunities tonight. And then finally, just as an honorable mention, Jamie Drysdale, I believe, led the team in time on ice tonight, was an absolute mule, an absolute workhorse tonight, dominating in the defensive zone, put on some good pressure on the offensive zone, and was one of few Flyers that could actually make some things happen every once in a while, whether it was block shots and just getting an icing down to buy the Flyers a couple of seconds, whether it was taking shots from the point, whether it was actually trying to generate anything on the power play, because that was another real low spot for the Flyers tonight. The Flyers' second power play line might not be allowed to leave the city of Philadelphia when we go to Carolina. They might have to scratch that entire line out on the lineup sheet and just say that we're running power play 1 and that's it, and you guys can play the whole 2 minutes. Because that second power play line looked atrocious. They were playing with the puck a ton. They weren't shooting. They were turning the puck over. It's regardless. The Flyers won. That is what's most important. If you guys have been enjoying the videos, once again, make sure that you leave a like on the video, subscribe. If there was anything that I said today that you personally disagree with me on, if there's anything that you think I missed, if there's anything that you saw during this game that I didn't bring up today that you think I should have brought up, let me know in the comments down below. I'll stick around for a little bit to read some comments, get back to some people. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all when the Flyers play Carolina. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Go Flyers.